So Cecile Pakeluzzi, who's speaking with us on behalf of Azafaros, is next with her presentation.
Many thanks. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Super. Thank you very much. So thank you for the invitations. I'm very honored to be a bit with you today, although virtual. Thank you again, and I will represent what the company Azafaros is doing. And again, it's an honor to be here today. Next slide, please. So what are we going to do in 10 minutes? Just to give you a few words of who we are, what we are developing, and what is our plan, what we do currently, and what we will do in the future. Next slide, please. So Azafaros is a small startup company that has been founded in 2018 in Netherlands. Most of the operational activities, so all the team doing clinical trials is mainly in Switzerland, but we have key roles as well still in Netherlands, like Gisela, the patient advocacy head that you may have met before. We have up to now had many interactions with health authorities regarding our drug. We are focusing mainly on lysosomal disorders and the neurological manifestation of the disease. And we have 3 indications that we are targeting. So GM1, of course, GM2 and NPC. Next slide, please. Our drug, AZ3102, has now a name. It's called Nizubaglustat. It's an oral drug. It's given once daily, and the current formulation is a small capsules. Of course, we know that our patients have swallowing difficulties, so we are working on a new formulation that would ease the intake of Nizubaglustat in our trials, and also later on if we are successful. Next slide, please. How our drug works. Okay. Can you go to the end of the slide? Because there was animation. Is it the end? Okay. Maybe again. Thank you. So we are acting at the cells level on two different enzymes. And these enzymes are involved in this complex pathway that you see here, which is responsible of the disease. So we hope that by inhibiting these 2 enzymes, we can reestablish a normal function or pretty normal function of the cells, and then reduce the brain damage and then the disease progression. This is our main goal. Next slide, please. We got some very nice preclinical evidence. Here you have only an extract from a Sandhoff mouse model where we could show that we are increasing survival in this model. And we are currently working in a GM1 mouse model, and we hope we will be able to show you the data next year. Next slide, please. So now I will more focus on the clinical development plan. When we started in 2019 and mostly the clinical development in 2021 with the phase 1 study, we had in front of us a lot of questions to answer, as you always have when you develop a drug. But I'm happy that there was some speaker before me who could explain all the challenges that we have. So we have, of course, to understand the safety, the tolerability of our drug. We have to understand which dose and which approach we will have in the young children. And of course, we have to demonstrate the drug effectiveness. But in this rare disease area, we also have to understand the disease. And you could see that defining a clinical endpoint in a phase 3 study is not easy. And to do that, you need to understand the disease, but also the clinical outcome you want to test in your phase 3. So we started at the same time of our phase 1 study, a natural history study in GM1 and GM2 patients. Next slide, please. This natural history study is called Ponto. It's still ongoing. And really, our main focus was to understand how the disease progressed over time. We also had the hope we can use this study as an external controls, and we wanted to use this study to develop a disease progression model. To do that, we have built the studies around 3 types of assessments. So the clinical assessment that the regulatory authority wants to see, and we have chosen mainly the SARA scale, it's our main scale. We also look in some site at the MFM32 and the TUC test. In parallel, we ask a lot to the parents of the patients because we have many questionnaires. So we have one main questionnaire, but we understand it's a quite heavy questionnaire. It's a villain questionnaire, but it's very interesting and very important that we understand also the impact of the disease on the daily life. And the last but not the least, because of this challenge to find outcome measure, we are trying to use sensor data by using a patch. So it's a device that is recording data at home. It's used 3 days every quarter to collect this data on an ongoing way. So there is no stop during 3 days. And then it's repeated again 3 days and again 3 days with a break of 1 day. And we do that every quarter. So with this bunch of data, we hope to understand very well the disease, and we also count on this data to design well our pivotal studies, sorry. Next slide, please. So we try to do this study also to be the least cumbersome for the families and for the patients, because we also understand that the families are also participating in other natural history studies who have maybe different objectives with different clinical outcome measures. So we insisted on the remote visits. So we have a system to do this remote visits. The SARA scale can be done remotely. So the physician is on the screen and assess the patients over the screen. We have the PhysIQ patch, as I said, with recording the data at home. And we have the questionnaire, which are available on the phone, on the computer, or on the tablet. We also try to make the schedule of assessment flexible. So if an assessment cannot be done because the patient is not feeling well, we really insist on the main assessment, which is the SARA scale. And the physicians can change a bit the schedule to arrange the families and the patients. Next slide, please. Today, we have 28 patients recruited in our study, but we are here the primary data from 27. So you can see that we have more boys than girls. We have a majority of patients who are less than 6 years old. We have very few, I think it's only 1 or 2 Sandhoff patients. And the patients were diagnosed majority before 6 years old. Thank you. Can you move slide, please? So the SARA scale, as I said, is the important outcome that we are looking at. Here you have an extract from the GM1 patients. And with this data, by measuring the SARA scale over time, we will define the variability that we see in the data, and it will help to define how many patients we will need in our pivotal study. We are also doing many other correlation analyses with the other outcome measures to see how to best define our primary endpoint later on. Next slide, please. So in parallel with Ponto, we started the phase 1 study, and we got very nice results. This study was done in adult healthy volunteers. We had a very nice tolerability and safety profile, and we got also a very nice pharmacodynamic effect in the plasma on the glucosylceramide, on glucosylceramide parameter. Next slide, please. Now we are running currently a phase 2 study in patients. It's our first study in patients. It's run in Brazil. It's what we call randomized, it's double-blind placebo control. It's a study, very short study of 12 weeks. And we want to evaluate the safety, tolerability, and pharmacokinetics of our drug in patients. We want to, it's really the study that will help us to give the correct dose to the patients later on. Next slide, please. So the study is as follows. We have a screening period of 4 weeks. Then the main study is 12 weeks. And in Brazil, we are allowed to continue in a double-blind extension that will help us to bridge to an open-label study that we will start as soon as possible when we know the exact dose which will fit better the patients. Next slide, please. You can skip this one. Next slide, please. So now we have the difficult work to design our phase 3. And again, the Ponto data are key on this exercise. We have a lot of discussions with the FDA, EMA, also the UK health authorities, and of course, Anvisa from Brazil to really direct and design this phase 3 study. And primary endpoint, as Dr. Kaki said, today, we have to have a clinical outcome measure. Of course, we are thinking about biomarkers and strategy around biomarkers, but as it was said before, it's not yet accepted by the FDA. Another point that I can mention also is that as we had the objective to use Ponto as an external control arm, this also was not accepted by the FDA per se. So we are working with them, with the other health authorities to make this future study successful. And next slide, please. With that, I would like to, on behalf of the Azafaros team, to thank you all for all the efforts you are doing to help us to progress our program, physicians and families, and we hope that we can bring a successful product in the near future. Thank you.